You know, when The Hunger Games first came out, it was way more than just a book, right? It was a full-on cultural explosion. It captivated millions, led to those blockbuster movies, and just became this global thing. But what if I told you that underneath that thrilling survival story, there's a much deeper world, one that holds a mirror right up to our own? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to explore.
Ah, that line. It gives you chills, doesn't it? It's a greeting, a promise, and a threat all rolled into one. It's the absolute cornerstone of a society built on the spectacle of watching children fight to the death.
And that's the real question, isn't it? So we're not just doing a plot summary here. No way. We're going to peel back the layers and really look at the psychology of its villain, the politics of its world, and yeah, the really unsettling questions it asks about our role as the audience.
Okay, let's jump in. First up, the traumatized tyrant. We're going to try and understand a villain's trauma. And where else would we start but with the man pulling the strings, President Coriolanus Snow? Because to really understand the monster, you have to understand the boy he used to be.
See, Snow wasn't just born evil. His cruelty was forged in some serious trauma. He was an orphan who lost literally everything: his parents, his family's high status. He actually witnessed a respected neighbor resorting to cannibalism just to survive. Then, he himself was forced into the arena to kill, and was betrayed or lost pretty much everyone he cared about. It's no wonder he came to believe the whole world was just one big arena where you either win or you die.
And this Reddit comment just nails it. It says everything about him comes back to that childhood trauma, that it physically altered his brain. And that's the key. His obsession with control, all that paranoia, it all stems from this desperate, lifelong fight to survive. He never processed his trauma. Instead, he built an entire system of absolute power just to make sure he would never feel helpless again.
And this is where it gets so interesting, because Snow is like a dark mirror of Katniss. Both were survivors, both were forged in desperation, but their paths went in completely opposite directions. Katniss fought for her family, for a revolution. Snow fought for social status and power. Katniss chose to preserve her humanity. Snow chose the path to absolute power every single time. She had a community supporting her. He was surrounded by cruelty. So two similar survivors ended up as total opposites. One a symbol of hope, the other a symbol of oppression. Okay, so let's zoom out. We've looked at the psychology of one man. Now let's look at the whole nation. Because the world of Panem isn't just a fantasy. It's a pretty sharp allegory for real-world economic systems. A great way to understand Panem is through something called Marx's conflict theory. It sounds academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Society is basically a constant struggle. You've got a ruling class, the bourgeoisie, who control everything, and then you have a working class, the proletariat, who does all the work and gets exploited. And if you think this is just fiction, check this out. In 2016, the top 1% of earners in the US took home 20% of the national income. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% of the population earned just 13%. So yeah, Panem's wage gap is extreme, but it's an exaggeration of a very real trend. Panem's economy is basically this theory in action. The capital is the ultimate consumer, the bourgeoisie. The districts are the proletariat, basically specialized labor camps, mining coal, farming food, producing luxury goods. And even the so-called career districts, who seem to have it better, are still just cogs in a machine designed to feed the capital's lifestyle. So how does the capital keep this whole system from collapsing? They use the classic tools of oppression. You've got propaganda, the constant threat of peacekeepers, and of course, the Hunger Games themselves. It's a brilliant and terrifying ritual designed to remind the districts that they're powerless and to make them hate each other so they can never unite. And this brings us to what might be the most uncomfortable question in the whole series. We've looked at the tyrant and we've looked at the system, but now it's time to look in the mirror. We need to talk about the story's critique of media and our own role as the spectators. Suzanne Collins does not shy away from how brutal this is. This quote pulls you right into the arena. Violence isn't some abstract thing here. She makes it warm and sticky and repulsive. She forces us to confront the ugly reality behind the so-called entertainment. And the story makes you question our own consumption of violence. You know, there's a real thing called ratings creep, where movies today that get a PG-13 rating would have absolutely gotten an R rating a decade ago. The lines of what's acceptable violence in art entertainment are always shifting. So this leads to the big question. Are we really all that different from the Capitol's audience?
Collins has said the whole idea for the story came to her while she was channel surfing between reality TV and war coverage, and the two started to blur together. As we consume more and more violent media, are we also losing our ability to tell the difference between entertainment and real tragedy? And check this out. This is the ultimate irony. This diagram is from a real school curriculum that uses the Hunger Games to teach kids about American citizenship, things like civic duty. So the same book that's warning us about being passive consumers is being used as a tool to create active citizens. It's both a lesson and the warning, all at once. So where does all this leave us? What's the ultimate takeaway from this whole complex, layered story? Well, it's definitely far more than just an adventure. I mean, it's a deep dive into how a tyrant is made. It's a sharp critique of economic inequality, showing how a whole society can be built on exploiting the many for the comfort of the few. And it's a direct challenge to us, the audience, making us question what we consume and why. In this quote from Katniss, it lands with so much force. When she talks about her ancestors, she's not just talking about the founders of Panem, she's talking about us. The story might be set in the future, but its critique is aimed squarely at our present. And this is the final, haunting question it leaves us with. The Hunger Games shows exactly how systems of power stay in power. They keep us afraid, they keep us divided, and they keep us distracted by spectacle. The story gives us a hero who refused to be just a piece in the game, and it leaves us wondering, which role will we choose to play in our own world?